Hey everyone, it's Bill Brandmeier, and I am here for another episode of Movement is the Medicine. This is the podcast that focuses on physical activity, exercise, and sports that's so good for our mental health, our mental awareness, our bodies, our minds, our spirits, and we are wrapping all of these episodes around the idea that really this is good for kids. Kids need to be physically active. They need to be off their phones, on the fields, playing games, and that's what Movement is a Medicine is trying to reinforce with every episode we do. And we're so excited to come back again, Dr. Doug and I.
Right.
Dr. Doug Hugendijk, what's up?
In the house, another episode, another fascinating story.
Yeah, every time we seem to get these great athletes on to talk about their journeys, and today's no exception. We are joined from San Diego, California by John Armstead. John has this unique background of being a world-class D1 lacrosse player for those East Coast lacrosse teams that just dominate lacrosse, and then going all the way across the United States to USC and playing for one of the top football programs in the nation to finish off his athletic career in college. And we're just so excited you're here, dude. Welcome.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. This is really exciting. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no. So do you feel like you're a California dreamer kind of dude with the long hair and locks and like to surf, or are you more the East Coast sophisticated, or you just play both sides? What's up?
It's fun. I kind of play both sides. So I was born and raised in California, up in the Bay Area though. So not as much the Southern California surfer vibes that I'm kind of diving into a little more right now. But I don't know. I've enjoyed both. I think there's pros and cons to both sides of this, but I do love California. The weather out here is fantastic. Can't really argue. But I miss Richmond. I miss Virginia a lot as well. So I like both, man. I'm not too picky when it comes to that stuff.
So you were raised in San Jose, right? And you got brothers. Tell me a little bit about that early stages of your life and what it meant to be in that Southern California, Silicon Valley, energy, San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the youngest of four. I got three older siblings, two brothers and a sister. I pretty much, sports have been the central point of my life since as long as I can remember. I pretty much grew up with a ball of some sort in my hands, playing some sort of game. And I was kind of following after them. My two older brothers were really into sports. They were playing pretty much everything that they possibly could. I remember stories, just my mom trying to juggle all of us, bringing us all to practice here and there. And it's pretty chaotic when you have four kids and all of them are trying to do different things. So it was something that I kind of dove immediately into, following after them. And that's where a lot of my inspiration came from. Was they were really good athletes and just wanted to follow in their footsteps and kind of continue that lineage. And
your brother Henry kind of pushed you a lot, right? Was he the one that pimped you and pushed you and toughened you up?
He's 4 years older than me. And
how many?
He's the one that got me into lacrosse, actually.
How many years older?
He's 4 years older than me.
4 years older. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So never got to overlap with him in high school, unfortunately. That would have been fun. But yeah, he was the one that got me into lacrosse, and he was the one that really was the one that pushed me along. And I think both of them did, but I think he was someone that saw how much I loved it and how many places that it could take me to. And he's been a big person in my life of pushing me and trying to get me to, achieve that level that would open a lot of opportunities and doors for myself. So I do credit a lot of my success to him, just because he's someone that's constantly been pushing me and introducing me to obviously lacrosse, which opened so many more doors for me. But yeah, he's been a big inspiration for sure.
Okay, so when it started out, you were a little kid. Did you just play all sports? Did you just play
every sport?
Everything
under the sun. I was a big time swimmer, golfer, baseball, football, basketball. Ended up once I got to probably end of middle school / start of high school is when I started focusing on lacrosse and football. Did you feel like you were lucky that you got to play any sport you wanted to play and that your parents were able to provide that experience for you? Yeah, absolutely. I know. Yeah, I think having the opportunity to not only explore what I wanted to, but that gave me so many different groups of friends and people that I was able to connect to growing up. Because each sport, there's different people that are playing each sport, but having the opportunity to play all of them was a really good opportunity. I definitely felt really lucky having the chance to do that. So it was good from a social standpoint, and then also having the ability to playing team sports, but also play individual sports. I think there's growth opportunities playing in both of those growing up as well. So yeah, definitely really lucky.
And you were, go ahead.
Yeah, we're hearing it again now, John. Like you're maybe the eighth athlete we've had on, and from NBA champions to unique individuals like yourself, and people in between, and the commonality is a very diverse upbringing in sport.
Yeah, different multi-sport background.
Multi-sport background, and like there's so much focus now, like specialization and the potential detriment to that. I mean, seeing what you've done, what you continue to do, it's again nice to hear.
You're a little unlike some of our other guests. You remind me a little bit of me because I'm 5'9.5", and I weigh I weighed 130 in high school, maybe 150. Were you the little guy? Did you feel like the little guy?
By far the biggest or by far the strongest. I was probably pretty average throughout my sports career. I mean, there's a reason I stopped playing basketball when I did. Is because I wasn't blessed with those genes. But I mean, on the smaller side, especially when I started getting to higher level, being in football for sure, being on the smaller side, and then lacrosse, it varies a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I was probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think I really stuck out either side of being too big or too small growing up.
Right. But you went to an all boys high school and being 5'10", maybe 5'9" then, and 170, 165. You played with big guys, I'm sure. You had the best football teams, the best lacrosse teams, the best basketball teams in the city.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. And that was good too, just because I feel like a lot of my growth came from surrounding myself with the best people too. Athletically, from that standpoint for sure, because you're going to develop as good as the people that you're surrounding yourself with. So that was a blessing. I mean, it was hard to in some instances be outsized, outnumbered, but it was also a challenge that I was willing to take on and improve from. So I think it was good having that environment.
Who taught you to work hard? Was that in high school, or did that come? I mean, obviously you had to work to be a D1 lacrosse player, but
was it just work being in your family around the siblings, like kind of like battling?
Is it your mom and dad? I'm just wondering if your dad played a role in that, or your mom.
There is, I think, a lot I can contribute it to. First off, my parents both work very hard and have been very successful from their work ethic. So I think I got a lot of it from them, and they pushed me, but not too much to the point where I would burn myself out. I think they were very good in helping us understand that with work you'll get the rewards that you wanted. So a big part of my work ethic comes from them and just seeing the success that they've had from working hard. And then a lot of it's internal also. I mean, my family is a big inspiration for like why I'm working as hard as I do, but a lot of it's internal also. I think I put a lot of expectation on myself, and I understand that what I'm capable of doing is only going to happen if I work really hard enough to achieve that. So there's a lot of different variables and I think factors that go into my personal work ethic. A lot of people, I've had coaches along the way, I've had teammates along the way that have pushed me also to new levels as well. But I think a combination of my family and then just my personal expectation of myself too. Between those, I think that's how I've gotten where I'm at right now.
And you pushed hard off the field too. I mean, in the classroom, sounds like possibly with your mental health, you've worked through some things. Talk a little bit about outside of sports and how sports maybe anchored your life, but you also saw these opportunities that, I mean, you were at one of the top high schools in Silicon Valley and in San Jose. My daughter went to Santa Clara, so full disclosure, I kind of know the area pretty well and spent some time there. So to tell me a little bit about what it was like to be in an all boys high school and have the pressure of the school, that you weren't just, because my kids go to a private school here in Kansas City, and they carry a lot of pressure in the classroom outside of sports.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's acquired in a sense. You're almost thrown to the fire a little bit when you go to a school like that has high achieving sports, high achieving academics. Makes you grow up pretty quickly and learn a lot right away. I think there's a lot though that can be learned from just the opportunity that is given from sports. Going back to kind of your first question there, I think there's a lot that I've been able to, I guess, achieve because of sports. It's opened a lot of doors for me. It's opened, the opportunity to go to schools. It's opened relationships, people that I've met along the way. And I think I understood, partially because of the people that I've surrounded myself with, that if I made my off the field success just as important, honestly more important than the on the field success, then it would come along with it. Like those work in tandem with each other. And I think that's a big reason why I went to a school like Bellarmine, and then why I again had the opportunity to then go to Richmond and go to USC, is because those two off the field and on the field work ethics, how much you put into them, what you get out of them, they all work together in a sense. And I'm lucky. Like people have asked me all the time, like, what was it like going to an all boys school? And obviously, like the gut reaction from all those people are like, must have been weird. Like it must have just been like this interesting environment because people can't really comprehend what it was like. But I think it was a great way of introducing myself to the competition that I was going to be facing for realistically like the rest of my life, both in sports and off the field as well. Because there's a lot of really successful people. It's very highly competitive, obviously being just a private all boys school in the Silicon Valley. You're just going to get that by nature. And I don't know, I thought it was a really big growth time for me going through that. I'm not saying that going to a co-ed school is any different, but I think putting myself in that environment, it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you, in a sense, try to feel like you have to overachieve in order to be the best, or overachieve in order to even just fit in sometimes. So it's a highly competitive environment that I think I thrived because of it.
That's
so
great.
I definitely really enjoyed it.
Right.
Yeah, we have a school here, Rockhurst High School. Same thing. It's my nephews have gone there. My kids go to a co-ed private school, but and I do think that they are lucky that they have this opportunity. And you do sense outside of the field of play this sense of we're all in this together. We're all working together to get the best grades we can about to prepare ourselves for some greatness. And when you look at what Bellarmine has established over the years, so I got a question for you. We'll jump down back into this podcast, but do you know who the most famous graduate of Bellarmine High School is in today's world?
Pop quiz.
Come on now.
It's on the spot.
In today's world.
Who are we talking?
Base Nectar.
Who?
Did Base Nectar go to Bellarmine?
Base Nectar. Yeah, that is correct.
Come on now.
No, I mean,
I was going to toss out some names in sports, but yeah, that's pretty funny. We've had a couple go through that are
Base Nectar is one of the greatest DJs in EDM right now.
Oh,
he's got this huge long hair and he just dances. Anyway, he played in Kansas City about 10 years ago, and
is that right?
I was part of bringing him here. So anyway, he was.
Yeah, that's a pride and joy of Bellarmine right there.
I'm scratching my head. He's a politician. Who is this guy?
No, his name's not Base Nectar, but he goes by
I was curious who you had in mind right there. He was probably one of the more influential and famous people to come out of Bellarmine.
Yeah. Well, okay. So obviously going to Richmond was a huge life choice. And you earned the right to go to one of the top lacrosse D1 programs in the country, all the way from San Jose, which is crazy. You fought for that, right? You picked them as much as they picked you.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think the something I learned about even just the recruiting scene in general when it comes to lacrosse is that you got to be so proactive coming from the West Coast, coming from California, non-hotbed, where, I think I talked my way into that school and opportunity more than they recruited me, which it's kind of how it's got to work sometimes. But just to give a little bit more of a backstory on just how that worked. So the whole lacrosse recruiting landscape is essentially happening on the East Coast in Canada for all high school. I was in a weird time also when recruiting was happening in 8th grade. So people were committing to the top schools for very, very early bloomers. And that didn't really play into my cards too well, just because I was more of a consistent workhorse kind of mentality. I wasn't really going to stick out as like an 8th grader freshman year of like, this kid's going to jump off the page at you right away. So I think that kind of hurt me in the recruiting landscape. But I spent my summers freshman to senior year on the East Coast, just traveling up and down, doing a tournament in Baltimore, then a tournament in like Philly, then a tournament down in DC. And then it was just a lot of travel, a lot of trying to get in front of coaches, because they're not going to come out to the West Coast. They're not going to watch you when they have anyone that they can get in their backyard. you got to find a way to get into their backyard.
Got it.
It was just trying for me to get myself in front of them as much as possible. Credit to my parents for going on those trips with me and funding all of that, because that was not an easy time, I'm sure, for them to be trying to juggle work and everything, but also trying to help me chase my dreams of playing in college. So that's a whole different side of it as well, where me being proactive, but they were also fully supportive in that process too.
And you were a midi in high school.
Yeah. So I was an offensive midi in high school, and then once Richmond got me, they're like, "You're playing defensive midi." So a little bit of a transition, but I was okay with it. I fully leaned into it.
And your coach said nobody watched more game film than you. Like, you were the guy that every week you were watching more and more film. What were you trying to accomplish by learning to be a midi? Like, it's not like you want to. I mean, there's pro lacrosse, but but you were putting the hours in just to be the best you could possibly be. What? Tell me.
I just think I thrived off of preparation. And my senior year, I mean, actually, I guess all of my years, when I was really diving into that, it was taking a step back, I guess, when I did change positions, going from offensive to defensive midi, there was a lot to be learned there. I mean, there was a whole new defensive set of packages. There was an understanding just how defensive structures really work. But that was the first part of it. But then, I don't know, I just think, and this is applicable to all aspects of life, but when I prepare for every single possible situation that can come at me, especially on the field, and when I know the personnel, when I know who I'm coming up against, when I know what they're going to bring to me, I think I'm going to be able to put in my best effort and give myself the best chance to succeed in those situations. So I just think I loved diving really, really deep. I wanted to know everything about every single player that I was facing. I wanted to know not only what hand they liked, like what moves that they pulled out in every situation. I wanted to know their personal life. I wanted to know everything about them, because I just thought it made me more comfortable on the field. It made me feel like I was in a better mentality. And it gave me the confidence to know that, if I know them, they can throw the whole kitchen sink at me, and I'm going to be able to weather it. So there's that whole side of preparation that I think I couldn't get away from it. I was helping Coach Richards by the time he was the one that said that. He was the one that would put together our scouting reports. By the time our season was in the middle of it, by my senior year, I was trying to help him build the scouting reports. I was kind of going in just like, hey, I want to figure out everything I can about this player and stuff. So that was, I don't know, it's just the way that I was operating. It's just the way that I found success.
Doug, another life lesson, right? Preparation and be as thoroughly prepped as you possibly can to take on the battles of life. Right. And it's just, again, I apply it to what you do. The more you know about an athlete and the way they move and the way they're trying to move and what they do to heal, and the more you can give them information so that they can be better and get back. And
it's such a difference maker, and there's so many parallels there. Like, I arrived at a point in my career where the more data, the more analytics I had on the structural integrity of that athlete, the better I could identify what their load capacity was. And that would help me design their programming, use the instrumented process, build programming for them to take on their own, which would be the best deep practice supplement to what they're already doing well. And when I met John, he was doing so many things well, as evident by his journey. Some of those data points really helped, the programming to a deeper level.
Well, I do want to go. We're going to go into how you guys know each other, because I think it's always kind of enriches the conversation as we go through this. But I want to get back to what happened at Richmond for you. As you were coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, you had already spent a lot of time playing in the circuit of what this club, lacrosse has become. Yeah. Did you walk away from that thinking how absurd it is? I'm sorry to try to take this conversation in a different direction, but I'm just curious how absurd it is, how expensive lacrosse is. Yeah. I mean, it's a game that's so incredible for kids, and it's so exclusive. My son plays, so I'm part of the problem, but so I'm not throwing stones here, but it's crazy.
It is. No, it's really crazy. Exclusive. That's a good word that you just used right there, because I think it depicts pretty accurately how the sport's been operating and what they're trying to move away from. I know there's been a lot of efforts in recent years. I think it's a great thing for the sport to try to lower the barrier of entry, but it's there. It's there for sure. It's a reason that there's that stereotype behind it of how it's just like a rich white kid sport. It's how people have gotten into the sport. It's the demographic that has realistically only been able to for the most part, get into the sport. There's been a big barrier of entry, which sucks. Yeah. But kind of going with that, I think they've been doing a really good job in recent years of promoting. There's different organizations, things like Harlem Lacrosse, Oakland Lacrosse, different organizations that are pushing more into inner city areas or areas that obviously lacrosse isn't as big, and trying to spread it there and trying to.
We have a program here in Kansas City called Lacrosse the City, and it's the same thing. How do you get sticks in the hands of kids? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but I mean, with that being said, it's still a very expensive sport, because not even when it comes to the gear and everything, you kind of have to buy for the upkeep to travel. If you're coming from the West Coast, you want to play in college, like, you're going to have to kind of do what I did a little bit. You're going to have to go out. You're going to have to spend weeks at a time, go to all these camps, pay for money for all these prospect days, different tournaments, playing for even a club team is a big expense. And then there's so much more that goes into that with just like a monetary side of things, where it's
it's not just lacrosse, right? It's baseball, it's hockey, it's these sports that take a lot. Football's well funded, so there's a lot of money in football. So that it seems like every kid can play football, but it's, if you don't have resources, it's basketball or soccer.
Yeah,
and then
it's true.
Yeah, I'm curious, John, when you were coming up in California with the success that I think it was Bill Tierney brought into Denver. Coming from the Princeton program, is there more going on in this Midwest hub for California players to come to, and is more attention being brought like into the middle of the country to afford opportunity? Like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, no, good question. So definitely, I think definitely more than when I was going through, because when I was going through, honestly, a lot of high schools were still in their infant years of their program, and because of that, like, clubs were just being formed, and it was still pretty early on to have an established lacrosse program coming out of either the West or the Midwest. But absolutely. So something that Denver did, which I thought was pretty interesting. And when they had a great year, went to the Final Four this year, but especially during their winning years a couple of years ago when they were in the national championship, I think they win it. Yeah, they won it that year. They kind of built a fence around Western Canada, California, Colorado, and then some of the Midwest states. And they're like, we're going to recruit out of here and pick out every good kid that we could find, and not really even touch the East Coast. And they won a national championship off of that. Wow. So it's
the best kid in our city is going to Utah.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big time.
Utah, so that's another school that's coming up. They're going to be, they've had a couple very good years to even start their program. That's going to be probably a very dominant program soon. Denver's back to where they were a couple years ago, and it's growing. There's been some more programs going Division I, which is, I think, spreading the popularity of the sport. But, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think it's growing very fast, way faster than when I was going through the recruiting process, which is good because it's going to be hopefully a little bit more nationwide pretty soon.
It's now defunct, but I think all of the Pac-12 schools had club lacrosse teams, right? I mean, it's like a defunct conference now, but I remember seeing Stanford, I think, had a men's lacrosse club, and there's other programs like really building, and there was talk like, will the Pac-12 have a lacrosse conference? And that was like a buzz, and I thought that would have been so amazing.
Yeah.
But
I got a quick story for you guys here. There was about, when was this? Probably 6-7 years ago. A handful of the Pac-12 schools all got funding to go Division I in men's lacrosse, but they all turned it down. So the opportunity was there, but then because of Title IX, and there was one other reason attached to it too, where they were like, we don't want to introduce a new sport to it. So the opportunity was there I think I know USC was on that, Colorado was on that, Arizona State was on that, Stanford was on that, and these schools were just like, you know what, we don't want to add to the like the whole landscape right now. Yeah. So the opportunity's been there, and it's just it's kind of tough. There's adding to the barriers. There's that too, I guess.
Right.
Well, so lacrosse at Richmond gets stunted by COVID, right? And do you have to go home? I mean, my nephew went to Manhattan to play lacrosse. It's kind of the same time. And his first year, they had their season, and then it shut down. And he came back to Kansas City, and he never went back He never went back.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but it was your senior year, right?
COVID was my junior year.
Your junior year.
Sophomore or junior year.
Okay.
Yeah, I was right in the middle of it.
And you came back to California or not?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, like during that time of COVID, I came back home. So, I got surgery during that time.
Okay. And that's when you met Doug?
I met him a little after. So, we can. Do you want to go into that right now?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
We might as well because I'm trying to build up to your decision to play at USC, and it's part of the story. So tell it. Right.
Yeah. So COVID. I'll just start back there because that's what you referenced. I was going through some hip issues that I couldn't quite figure out. Was playing injured, was just not having a great time. Ended up when COVID hit, somewhat of a blessing in disguise because I was able to go back home and get some proper care. Got to look at it a little more. Got double hip surgery, so that's how I spent my COVID. Was pretty much in a wheelchair and relearning how to walk and do all this stuff again.
Oh my God!
Ended up being great though. I felt way better after. Did a great job at Stedman Institute. They crushed it. Dr. Philippon was great. But so I got that, and then the way that I know Doug was from another surprise, just injury, because I play contact sports and I just get injured all the time. But it was stemming a little bit from that. I had a lot of stuff going on my right leg, but it ended up being a hamstring injury that was helping me work through, and that was a little painful, but it was great. I got introduced through a referral, I believe, to Doug, and he was pretty quick to get me on the program, and obviously it was the best program that I could possibly be on for trying to fix my body. So that was a pretty awesome introduction that I had to him. Got to work pretty closely together. This was, I guess, a year after.
So, Doug, do you think that the hip surgery and his recovery from that caused his hamstring injury, or you can't say that?
Everything has like a layer
correlated,
effect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and when you look at the proximity to the hip with the gluteus maximus, it's an extensor of the leg. Hamstring extends the leg. Problems in one area maybe led into an overuse type of trauma.
Right. And makes total sense.
There was, a number of confounding factors there. And it was not a simple hamstring strain. There was some history to it, some complexity to it. So, it was just a lot of fun, as you get an athlete of his level and the things that he wants to do. My perspective was, could we get objective data to help him try to actualize opportunities?
Did you have to slow him down?
Well, of course, because the guy's a hard charger. Ever since his growing up with his siblings, he's hard charging and embellerment experience, and going into the collegiate environment and wanting to come out of the collegiate experience and have opportunity. You always have to pull guys back a little, but work within their envelope of function.
So after that, did you go back to Richmond and play another season?
Yeah, well, it's been 4 years at Richmond, so okay. I went back, and we actually had the majority of my junior year there too, and then my senior year had the full senior year and stuff as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I still had a little time after COVID with Richmond.
And you graduated from Richmond with a degree?
Yeah, in 22 I graduated from Richmond.
With a physics degree?
Physics and computer science, yes, sir.
Damn.
So
I don't even
he could beat you on the field, and then he could beat you with his mind.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, and so, but you had you had the bonus year of eligibility in the NCAAs, and when you came back to California, something inspired you to go out for football.
Yeah. I'll take you back through that. That wasn't a rash decision that I made on my end. That was something that I had been prepping for a little bit. Something that's been in the back of my mind. I grew up USC household. My brothers went to USC, so going back to them and their influence on me, we grew up a big USC football family. So I remember early days watching Reggie Bush, watching those guys, and that was something that I really aspired. I was like, this is like what I love. This is like the pinnacle of everything for me was like USC football. So my uncle,
one of our podcasts is Mike Garrett. You should listen to him. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
And he talks about Reggie getting his Heisman back. So that was good.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. About time, right? About time.
Well, no, he got it back. So we're good.
I know. Thank God.
About time. Was that what you said? About time. Yeah. Okay. So, you're making this decision. Tell me more. You're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through how this all went down, actually, because it's a pretty interesting way of how everything happened. But as I was saying, big USC fan growing up, ran in my family, and once high school football ended, I just missed it, to be completely honest. Football was my first love. It was the sport that I was gravitating towards the most growing up, and just what I loved watching, what I loved playing the most. So I missed it once it ended in high school, and I was obviously doing my thing at Richmond and loved playing lacrosse out there, but it was still in the back of my head. I was like, if I get an opportunity, I'd love to come back to it in some capacity. And once my junior year rolled around, so this is after COVID hit, and once I knew that we were going to be probably given some more eligibility or whatever it was going to be, I understood that there was going to be an opportunity that lay in there somewhere. So I actually went into the transfer portal my junior year, talked to my coaches. They were on the same page as me, going into the portal as a grad student a year in advance, but not for lacrosse. So there was a little note under my name in the transfer portal that was like, hey, he's not going to listen to coaches that are going to reach out on the lacrosse side of things. So I went in, and pretty much what I just did for about a year was just bother the hell out of the coaches at USC. And I was just like, hey, here's film, here's me, here's workouts, here's everything about me. I want an opportunity. I want to be able to do this for my 5th year. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to get into the school myself. If I get into the school, give me a chance, like give me a spot.
You were Rudy. You were the USC Rudy.
Being in their ears so much that I got them to listen a little bit. I had a couple connections along the way too that were super helpful for me. My brothers were super close to former quarterback at USC, Max Brown, and he was very instrumental in that process too. But then the way that it all ended up going down was that I got into this master's program at USC the start of my senior year. So I got in early, which was awesome because it was a program that luckily I didn't have to wait until the end of like my senior year to be hearing back from decisions, but got into the start of my senior year. Once I got in, I was hitting them up even more about it. I was like, I'm already into the school. Like, I'm going to be on campus now. Like once May comes around. So
Lincoln,
I know they started listening to me at that point. And then once my lacrosse season ended up, my senior year finished at Richmond, I graduated. I was in LA, moved into my apartment the next week, and then I was starting up pretty quickly.
Did you ever have to sit down with Lincoln Riley and have a conversation?
I've talked to him a few times. Yeah. I mean, we were mostly talking on a scout team standpoint, but I've had my conversations with him.
Did you ever rip a ball from Caleb William pass? Did you ever get one?
I didn't pick him off, which is pretty sad, but I did get a couple deflections.
Okay.
He was unbelievable I can't even put into words just how difficult it was to read him. So I was playing nickel to shed light on just like what I was really doing at USC, and essentially he was reading off me on a lot of plays, and it was very difficult to try to bait him into anything. He was way better, and I think I was very prepared for it. So that was awesome. That's a whole different conversation, just being around that level of success, that level of work ethic. He works insanely hard. He's very good at what he does. Just seeing his approach to practice every single day was awesome to be around. That's the epitome of being around the best of the best. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. You know what I love hearing about this is, John, you being your own advocate, like having such a confidence in what you wanted to experience
really?
and your background, right? Seriously. And I mean, when you're the coaches there, you're getting a guy who's pretty bright, because, physics and computer science, and then, lacrosse is such an athletic sport. Just putting your best foot forward. I think there were probably many times where you could have just retracted, said this might not happen. But man, still being your best advocate, I love it. I mean, it's such a message to get out there to kids, right? Like, be your own best advocate. Have the self-confidence to go forward and make your opportunities, right? So that's great.
And off the field, go ahead.
I just knew that wasn't going to fall into my lap anytime soon. I think I got that mindset from my recruiting from lacrosse of like I needed to kind of be my own advocate and be proactive in that sense too, and it bled over into the graduate school opportunity, and I think that's kind of where I learned that from. So I totally agree with you.
That's great.
And while you were at USC, you fell in love with project design or product design, and technology is obviously your forte, computer science, physics, and then you have this thing about helping people. So talk a little bit about that other pathway that you're pursuing, and even though maybe in the back of your mind there might still be some lingering sense that you're going to play lacrosse again on a professional level, which I wouldn't put it past you if you wanted it, but you're also knee deep in trying to figure out what the rest of your life is going to look like outside of sports.
Totally. Yeah. A lot of layers to that question. So I think I fell in love with product design because I was obviously doing more of the development side of things when I was in undergrad with computer science. And then when I got to USC, it was a product design and much more like designing apps and designing the experience for users. That's what the master's was geared towards. And I just realized that I was, one, a lot better at that. And two, I just enjoyed doing that more. I liked working directly with people and, solving the issues or maybe some of the pain points that they had with just different technological experiences or, if they're going through an app, how I can make it better for them. And being able to combine that with this passion for mental health, this is something I can even go back to if you want to fully restart this story of just something that's been a focal point in my life and been something that's been at the forefront of my mind for a long time. And part of that's from my own experiences. Obviously, the expectation I put on myself has been something that's been probably influencing my mental health along the way. But then just, the different experiences that student athletes have going through college with, the social difficulties, the athletic and academic difficulties. There's so many things that work in tandem with each other that can lead to just different mental health instances, or at least make you a lot more aware of your mental health. And I think that was something that I've had a lot of people that I've been close to suffer from it, had, a lot of negative experiences with it, myself included. And I think that was something that once I really realized what I wanted to do with my life, which was being more on this design side and helping people out this way, if I was able to merge that then with my passion of helping people in this sense where I have the experiences I have, like I know exactly what they've gone through. I know that it's a unique experience that student athletes go through. And it's also something that I would be able to use my knowledge and experience to help people, that next line of people that are going to be coming through. Being able to merge those two together was something that I was like, this is, I feel like what I'm really meant to do in a sense, because it's not a lot of people share that perspective and not a lot of people share the experiences that I've gone through. So it's almost like I'm almost made to fix that issue, or at least be, an advocate in this space. So that's kind of where that's led to. And now because of that, just to even go deeper into it, been working on through my master's degree. And then currently right now working on building out this mental health app that's targeted for athletes, student athletes specifically, but all athletes in general. And it's something that me and my co-founder who I actually live with, he played baseball, James Madison, Lucas. We've been talking about this for years, and now it's actually happening. And it's pretty cool to actually see it being built. So it's pretty cool to hopefully have a product that's going to help thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and be a resource for them, and hopefully help that next generation of people and put them in a better mindset to approach these challenges in a new way.
Well, we can sidebar our conversation about that, because I'm really interested in talking with you more about that and maybe helping shed some insight. I've had some experiences with incredible ideas before, and there's so much involved in getting the right product into the right space for the right people. And you're dealing with some deep stuff. Are you comfortable talking about anything specifically that you've gone through in your life that has pushed you into this space where God has a purpose for your life? Or you don't have to, but if you don't mind, it'd be good for us to hear.
Yeah, totally. So I think the thing about me and my story is that I don't have one specific moment where it was a light bulb that clicked. It was more of, I think my time at Richmond was difficult for me moving. We kind of shed light to this earlier, but moving all the way from California to the East Coast just put me in a whole new bubble that I wasn't really prepared for. And I think that in itself, that transition led to difficulties in itself that I wasn't really sure how to deal with it. And then just being introduced to the whole overwhelming feelings of the things I was referencing earlier with the whole academic, social, and athletic side of things. Wasn't really one specific thing. I'd had, when I was at Richmond, a football player, a friend of mine, did commit suicide when I was out there. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because it was just like, this is a very real thing that's in our face. That's not solved by any means. Like we need more help. Yeah. And I think that was something that started to get this ball rolling of like, I can be that help that people are looking for. So that was something that was freshman year. And that was kind of got the gears turning a little bit. And then, I don't know, for myself, I think I just dealt with a lot of different instances where I wasn't really sure the right direction to go. I didn't feel like I was taking the right steps. I felt like there was almost too many overwhelming, conflicting things going on. I didn't get, in my experience, didn't get out of therapy what I wanted to get out of therapy, and didn't really get what I wanted to get out of different conversations with people. Wasn't really sure how to approach it then at that point, and just felt like I was almost confining myself to just being in my own head and living in my own head. And because of that, it can snowball pretty quickly out of control. There's been a lot of times in my life, again, not one in particular, where I was just like almost too overwhelming to the point where I'm like questioning everything about myself. Like, why am I here? Like, why am I doing all of this? And it's not an uncommon thought, I think, for a lot of athletes in a lot of senses. So,
well, I'm gonna take over here a second and kind of share this with you. So we've talked to Doug about load capacity, right? And I once again, we're playing around this idea of load capacity cognitively and physically. You put yourself in a stressful situation, moving from your great little what I call La La Land, or little happy little San Jose, Santa Clara, one of the most beautiful places in the world. 45 minutes from the beach, get to watch sunset in Santa Cruz.
The beach,
it's all there.
So you can
you put yourself in Raleigh. I mean in North Carolina, right? And you do stress yourself, but then you learn how that can help you build load capacity so that you can take on even harder challenges in life. And sports does that for us, right? Sports gives us those opportunities to take on more challenges, prepare ourselves, and then when we need it, we got it because we did the work. My mental health journey can be shared with you off camera sometime, but I think it would be good for us to connect on some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Doug and I have thought long and hard, possibly about how we could incorporate this idea that he's come up with load capacity to what we're talking about in terms of mental health. So go ahead, Doug.
I would love to talk more about that.
Well, it is in a lot of ways a Shangri-La, because they say in the Silicon Valley area, you could be skiing in the afternoon and surfing in the evening. So it's a very unique environment. So I mean, like, to go from the West Coast to the East Coast, and the challenges that must have offered at that age, John. I mean, overwhelming. Like, I went a couple hours north, from where my first college experience. And it was challenging in my own right. I kind of had a lot of like cultural change, and that was challenging in its own right. So, I can only imagine with that. And then, like you're mentioning here, Bill, this concept of load capacity going beyond the structural integrity of the athlete, right? And, what you can adapt to and build a resiliency towards, and, really rely upon past experience to bring to the forefront and maybe help you become more resilient and persevere through things that you experience, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
Share your thoughts on that. I want to hear what you say. What do you think?
Just on the whole, resiliency part of it?
Yeah. I mean, you fought through injury. You knew that you kind of got what Doug was trying to do with you. And and you probably had this epiphany and went, oh, wow, that's what he means. Oh, okay. And then mental health, same thing. It's like, oh, that's what it means to fight through a challenge. That's what it means to show up when you don't want to. Yeah.
There's a lot to that.
There's so much to that.
I think,
there's a lot.
I think when you're talking even just playing sports in college, I don't think I wanted to do what I did 80% of the time. And actually going into, those morning lifts, those morning runs, going into practice, just had a stressful day, just had, a test, you're destroyed mentally, and you got to go in, you got to perform at your best. Actually seeing yourself and proving yourself wrong that you can go in and do that, it's a big thing. It's a big accomplishment. And that was something that I thought was almost, it was a very important stepping stone to realizing that, I was able to actually achieve these things when I didn't want to, I didn't expect myself to. I was giving myself this negative self-talk, these negative thoughts were all just happening, and I was still able to do it. That's something that's I almost pride myself more on being able to do than whatever athletic feat follows that. So that's part of it. Having the resiliency, having the ability to kind of show up. I think showing up is more than half the battle. If you show up, being an athlete in college is being cut from the cloth that we're on. We're gonna also give our best effort at the same time. And I think actually getting there and actually getting yourself to do the thing that you don't want to do is half that battle. I think tying that back into the mental health side of things, That's a big selling point on my side of mental health, where it's, you don't want to go see a therapist, you don't want to go talk to somebody, but the moment that you do, you're going to be happy that you did it. You're going to feel a lot better that you did it. And I think it's the same way when it comes to sports. If you don't want to go to that morning lift, you don't want to go and show up, you're going to be happy that you did it though.
Right.
So, there's lessons on both sides.
Well, and that's what we say at around our house with physical activity. Go outside for an hour, and it changes your mental makeup. It changes who you are.
Totally does.
And not only is it good for you mentally, but it's good for you physically. So it's so many benefits. So good. Right. Well, I kind of want to dig in a little bit into your design and how that relates as an athlete, both an athlete and a product designer. How are you using your design skills to create tools and resources that support the well-being of an athlete? Talk specifically about what it is you're trying to create for these athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my biggest thing, and shared experiences of other athletes that I've been talking to in recent years in college, has been, there's actually a couple things. One is the stigma of mental health. So being able to design something that's going to lower the stigma, that's going to get people to want to do something without feeling some type of way about it. So that's been a challenge. The second thing is accessibility. Student athletes especially, have chaotic schedules, and being able to find a resource for them that's going to fit into their daily schedule that they want to go do, doesn't feel like a burden to them, to be like, oh, I got to go do this now, and almost treat it like it's a homework assignment or something like that. Being able to design something that's going to be inviting in the sense of it's there for them whenever they want it, and also they want to go do it. So between those two, that's been the biggest challenge. And we've gone through, hundreds of designs, many different features of how we're actually going to be able to really do that. And it's difficult. It's difficult to try to gamify and create a fun experience on something that's a pretty serious topic. But at the same time, I think in order to reduce that stigma, you actually have to do that, because there has to be a level of enjoyment that you get from this experience. There has to be a level of, I want to come back, I want to do this again, I want to actually actively do something that's going to improve my mental health, without it being like, all right, time to go do this that I have to go do because in order for me to feel better, I have to do this. It's more of, this is going to be a very cheesy saying, but create something that's going to get people to want to do something and have a get-to mentality more than a got-to mentality. And that's and if anyone at Richmond is going to listen to this, they're going to laugh at that, because that was our favorite saying at Richmond, is get to, not got to. But
Get to.
Well, let's hope they all listen. Let's go. Let's get to it.
It is the design approach, though, is create something that athletes want to do.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing, just because it's a demographic that's going to be the quietest. It's going to be the demographic that's not going to want to share their struggles, because they want to be the mentally
You've just
strong
described what it's like to raise a teenager. So
yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's actually that's mature. That's maturing, and the young athlete that we talked to up in Iowa, Nyla Valencia, she had her mental health moment, and she took her mental health time to help prepare her for what she was going through on a day, like up at 6 in the gym, go to school, great, 4.0. I mean,
so structured, and just so many parallels, between your journey and her journey.
I know,
but compartmentalizing, like recovery, mental health, training.
So lighten it up a little here. So you're still training hard, right?
Yeah, so I'm trying my best right now.
You want to shout out to Bo Francie? He looks like he's putting you through it.
Oh yeah, that he is. He's putting us through it. No, it's been awesome. I've actually been able to find a good lacrosse community down here too. That we're all super supportive of each other. We got a couple guys in the PLL. I've made a run at it. I did not get signed for this training camp, but I've been talking with some coaches, so we'll see kind of how that goes. That lacrosse and football career, I don't think I'm ever going to put it away until it's really time to put it away. So I will be, for as long as you guys know me, I'll be training like I'm getting ready to play this weekend.
I love it. Now, did you watch Notre Dame win the title this year? I mean, could you be?
Yeah, sadly I did.
Yeah. What a team, dude. They were a juggernaut. I couldn't believe what they assembled. But they had some old brothers on the team.
Right.
They're good. They're a really solid team. I saw no one was going to take them down this year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For so many years, I think Notre Dame always struggled to get over that hurdle,
Yeah,
right? They would make it, the championship weekend and lose. They're always close, and now they've repeated.
But when you were at Richmond, you beat Notre Dame and you beat Virginia, so we're good.
That's great.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
So, and so that's good. So
that's a great feather to put in your cap. To say you beat both of those teams. That's great.
I love it. Advice for young athletes. What would you say to a young kid? My son, he's 15 years old. He's playing football and lacrosse. He's a long stick on defense. He's the center and the defensive lineman. He's about 5'11", 240.
Powerhouse.
He's a powerhouse.
All right. I like it.
And is that a tough school? And
yeah.
And maybe you go back to your advice that you just show up and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, kind of following in somewhat the path that I did too, so can relate to him. But man, there's a lot of advice. I think not limiting yourself is the biggest thing, and Doug talked about this, and I know we've talked about this a bunch. But obviously, I've only gotten to where I've gotten just because I didn't limit myself in sports, didn't limit myself in the opportunities that kind of presented themselves to me, and making the most of those when they do and actually jumping on those was something that has been really integral, I guess, in my life. So whether that's continuing to play multiple sports, whether it's continuing to try your hand in different hobbies, activities, friends, just whatever it might be, not limiting yourself to, I'm going to play lacrosse, I'm going to stick to this, and this is what I'm going to be doing year round, or sports or outside of sports, just being open, being as receptive as possible, being, taking everything and trying to see what opportunity can come from it, has been my biggest thing, because you don't know what's going to come from any situation. And the more that you limit yourself, the more you're going to close those doors. So that's the advice that hopefully I've been an advocate for this whole time, and hopefully you can see the success in something like that. But I think it's important for all young people to do.
And how do you navigate temptation? You're living. It's marijuana's legal in your state, and drinking beer with your buddies is fun, and that's difficult too. I mean, I think that's just mostly about surrounding yourself with the people that you find success in, surrounding yourself with the right people that want not only the best for themselves, but the best for you too. And I've been lucky enough there's going to be trial and error through all this. You're not going to be able to grow up and do everything the right way. You're not going to be able to avoid every situation that's going to come your way that's, a negative one. Like, you're going to have to learn a little bit through some hardships, but it's kind of how you rebound from those situations. It's how you actually take those. It's not putting yourself in a situation that's going to compound from the last one. And I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of life is trial and error. But a lot of it's also, allowing yourself to have the perspective to know what's going to be most likely the better situation in a lot of those instances. So there's a lot of moving parts that happen, but well, you have a ton of wisdom. Are you 23, 24?
Yeah, it's 24.
24.
It's a great number.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot here that people can listen to and get a lot out of what you've provided. I want to encourage listeners to follow John on social media. You don't really care about that, I can tell, but you do have an Instagram, and you're posting about the workouts you do, and you are inspirational. And as you build out this product, you're going to want a lot of people to pay attention to what it is you're putting together, because there's an opportunity to really help athletes. I had one final thing, and then Doug, you can chime in here. But do you do men's groups? Do you do church? Do you do anything spiritually that keeps you anchored, or is that something that you don't feel comfortable talking about?
I grew up Catholic, grew up in a Catholic household, went to St. Simon Middle School. Bellarmine's obviously a Jesuit school. And that was how we were raised. So I do find comfort in that. I've been trying to tap back into it. It's a very interesting progression that I've had when it comes to, I guess, spiritualness in my life, just because being introduced to it at an early age, you're almost taking it and accepting it for what it is, and don't really have the chance to really explore it yourself. You're almost like just being taught it and being told that this is right, this is wrong. And there comes a time in, I know, my life and the people that have had similar experiences of me where you question it in a sense where you're like, okay, well, maybe what I was told was mostly just their perspective, but going through that's important, I think, because it helps you recenter yourself and find out exactly how you want to view religion. I mean, I'm just using this as like a religion analogy.
I get it.
Yeah, because I've now kind of gone back through that and I've refound that I do find comfort in that. I do tap more back into that, and it allows me to fall back on something that I know is a strong foundation. So there's that. And then not on the spiritual side, if you're not religious listening to this, doing a similar thing is with the people around me and realizing that if I want to fall back into something, it's the people that are going to care about me the most. My close group of friends, my family, it's the people that are willing to talk to me. So there's two sides to it. There's a spiritual side that you can fall back into, and then there's the interpersonal side that you can fall back into as well.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I hear with John, and I think it's with all the athletes we've spoken to, you look at, just to retrack here, D1 athlete at Richmond, going from the West Coast to the East Coast to assimilate into that culture, having success, studying physics and computer science. And then, you look at the journey to USC and making that opportunity and being his own best advocate. I think, somebody said this to me once, Doug, a lot of people like to say things are hard, but are really working hard at it. And I think you get out of it what you put into it. And I hear your story, John, and I think it's the epitome of that, right? A lot of people like to say things are hard, but you never did that. Like you just overcame, accepted, adapted, and made your own opportunities. And I think that's great. And that's been a commonality, right? So, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, good. I mean, I would be lying if I said there weren't times when I was questioning a lot, or if I was, going through it to the point where I was like, man, is this really worth it? But I think that's normal in the progression of being able to chase your dreams. I think it's normal to be.
I mean, I get a lot going. I get a lot going to the Church of Huberman. So
yeah, right.
Huberman teaches me as much about myself as any preacher ever has.
right.
But and yeah, I think we all have to find our own place where we feel like we're exploring that relationship. It's all a personal journey, but I just wondered if you had opportunities to, because you did mention the suicide that impacted you, and I'm sure you've had other people that have struggled with their mental health, and you do need to find those spaces where you're committed to sharing openly and honestly with one another. And
Definitely.
And that's athletes sometimes think that they don't have to. They put on that armor and they're like, I don't have to share. So break down the stigma. All right.
Exactly.
Well, everyone, incredible episode here with our friend Johnny Armstead. Do you go by Johnny? It's just you just kind of have that Johnny.
No, I go by John Jr. John. You can Army is whatever he calls me.
So and a lot to watch for here as he kind of moves out into the world and makes a name for himself, and we're going to pay attention and watch him grow, and excited to see that happen. We really appreciate you opening yourself up, sharing yourself like you have today. It's exactly what movement as the medicine is coming to be. I mean, this is what you think movement as a medicine. Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. And I remember when you first said it, you were like, oh, that's brilliant. It's like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? But it is this almost celebration of physical activity, exercise, and sports, and what it can do to a life.
Yeah, what it leads to.
And so we invite you to keep joining us. We're going to have some great episodes coming up after John, but this is one of our best episodes so far. We just keep getting better.
Excellent.
And you can like and listen and subscribe, and we're on YouTube. John's face is beautiful. You can see him on YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify or Apple or whatever.
And get motivated by his continued workouts, which are
no doubt.
amazing, beast mode.
All right.
So
that's okay, everybody. That's movement as medicine. And as we always say, as we end our shows, we said it 3 times, but this is the 3rd time.
Right.
Dance like nobody's watching.